All right, welcome everyone. Glad for you to join us here this Monday afternoon. I am King 5 meteorologist Adam Claybon here with a first alert weather day. Now, this is going to be the first day which is just kind of easing us into the heat. For many of us, the heat probably not going to be as extreme or as high as what we will notice here as we head on into more the day on Tuesday and Wednesday, when we are going to be seeing more of those highs, maybe reaching the upper 80s and maybe even a few spots reaching the lower 90s. So we're going to go over all that information and also too what's ahead later on into the week, because while we have this ahead for us for the next 3 days, there's quite the change on the way as we head on into the upcoming latter part of the week. And we're talking more so Friday and into the weekend, where we are going to see a cool down, but we're also going to notice more rain back into the forecast. For many of us, we're like, okay, good. Let's try to get it all out of the way before the upcoming 4th of July weekend. We'll see if that can remain true and hold to what we're expecting. So we'll get into that as we go later on to the show here. But wanted to get into right now the warm-up, the air mass, as it is heating up here across western Washington. And we're starting to see some numbers up by quite a bit from where they were at this point yesterday. Look right here across the map, you can see that many spots are up by about 5 to 10 degrees. And Port Angeles, one of the biggest increases here from 24 hours ago, as we're up by 16 degrees. Now, we're going to show you where the numbers are right now, but also give you an idea of how today, again, is expected to be just kind of easing us into it. We do have heat advisories out, but this is the day just kind of bringing us into the heat where we really don't have much in terms of that heat being fatiguing yet at all. But Tuesday and Wednesday definitely will bring quite the difference for us as we head on into those couple of days. And so while we're talking about that, let's go ahead and look at the forecast. Tuesday and Wednesday, both first alert days. We're expecting temperatures to be in those mid to upper 80s and a few low 90s. Hottest day probably will be on the date on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're seeing that things cool down just ever so slightly, still under that heat advisory, but we should start to see our numbers falling back at least a couple of degrees. And if you've been with us here over the past few days, over the weekend, models have actually trimmed back a little bit in terms of what we've been keeping an eye out for with some of the heat. We were seeing a lot more widespread 90s. Now, not to say that we won't have any 90s at all, but we're probably not going to see as many of them here heading into the day for tomorrow. So again, that's something that we're going to talk about here as we go throughout the next 30 minutes. Here's Westport. You can see skies out this way. They are completely clear. And really, you look off of the coast, and you don't see too much of that cloud deck or either too much of that marine layer. When you notice more of that, that means you're getting a little more of that offshore push and that drier air. You can see it kind of off into the distance there, but it's not close enough that you'll be thinking that, okay, it's going to be moving in here into the night. So the warm-up, it has started. Port Angeles also noticing things warming up by quite the degree. Up this way is where we have noticed more of the changes with our temperatures. Down this way, or over this way, let's say it that way. Here around Everett, you can see clear skies and things beginning to warm up here into more of our Monday afternoon. And here we are currently seeing Seattle. Beautiful skies, and it looks great out there. And it's going to be warm. Yeah, we're right now around that 80-degree mark. Here's we head about the 2 or 3 o'clock hour here. But we are expecting as we head on into the evening, those winds will continue to be around. It might bring a little relief for those of you who are trying to have your windows open here into the night. Not going to notice as many of us really seeing things cooling off as much, but you can see those overnight lows will drop from more of the 70s into the 60s, and I think a good portion of us will actually get into the 50s here as we head on into the night. Now, I did mention this. We're going to talk about temperatures right now. Where are we sitting? Here in Seattle, we're around 80 degrees. Areas elsewhere, lower 80s around Bremerton, mid 80s for us in Shelton. We're right now at 82 in Olympia, and right now in Tacoma, we're sitting at 77 degrees. You'll notice the change there, and in Everett too. Winds coming a little more out of the west, and then more so out of the north and northwest here, or north and northeast, sorry, for areas closer to Tacoma. That sensor just beneath Puget Sound, and so when you get that northerly component to the wind, it actually does bring temperatures down just a little more for those areas right where the sensor is. Now, if you're outside of those areas, you probably are feeling temperatures that are closer to the 80-degree mark, so that's what it really feels like outside for many of us here around parts of Pierce County. But farther north you go, you can see things relatively comfortable up around Friday Harbor, sitting at 69, 73 in Bellingham, and out towards the coast, we're actually seeing some fairly decent conditions out that way too, closer to Hoquiam, as we're currently sitting at 65. So yes, there's a difference from what we're dealing with right there for Hoquiam at 65 to what you're noticing out that way around Shelton, which is currently sitting at 84 degrees. That's almost a 20-degree difference. So if you're looking for some relief right now, the coast is where you want to be and probably where you're going to want to be here over the next couple of days, albeit I think we are still going to be relatively hot heading into the day for tomorrow, too, out that way towards the coast. Here's radar. And nothing really to talk about. We have some shower activity well off to the north and to the east. You can see that spin of low pressure right there across parts of Alberta, heading over towards more of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. All of that will slowly but surely continue to find its way off to the east. And for us, well, this is our flow right now. We're getting more of a northerly component to our wind. Yes, a little more of an offshore component could be around for us with this ridge of high pressure that's going to be in place, but we're not going to see it really pick up, especially as much as what we did earlier last week, if you remember, last Sunday and this past Monday that we dealt with. That's where we saw temperatures well up there. All right, this is what we're dealing with right here. Well, actually, this is going to be through Tuesday for parts of the Olympic Peninsula as well as more of parts of Northwest Interior for that heat advisory. Those of us here around parts of Central and North Sound and around some of the foothills, that's where we have this heat advisory that's going to be with us until we head on into Wednesday evening, and that's going to be at 11 p.m. Let me see if I can go ahead and update for that for you through Tuesday. Again, that's going to be through Tuesday for those of us here out closer to parts of the coast, as well as for areas here that will be around parts of Northwest Interior. And if you've noticed today, we actually have not been dealing with as much of the heat so far. So again, just trying to still kind of update us here, or trying to ease us into the heat as we make our way into the afternoon. But yes, we are going to have those heat advisories for those areas up that way as well as for pretty much the entire Kitsap Peninsula and down this way through parts of Southwest Interior, just not including the coastline in this advisory, as we are going to see enough of that onshore push and that influence from off of the Pacific to keep us just a bit cooler. But just kind of like last time, if you remember last week, some of our warmest temperatures were around this region right here, parts of the Kitsap Peninsula, as well as more of Central and South Sound and parts of Southwest Interior. That's where we expect it to be yet again as we head on into today, but also more so throughout Tuesday and heading on into the day on Wednesday. And some of those highs may be as high as the mid-90s for parts of Southwest Interior and some parts of South Sound, especially if we get a little more of that offshore push. All right, so let's talk about the skies, because the skies are going to be fairly clear for many of us as we head on into the evening, except out that way towards more of the coast, where we get more of this upper-level cloud deck that will be moving on in. That will continue to stream on through, so here we are into more of the day on Tuesday. You can see things trying to switch up a little bit, and it's with this disturbance right here that as it sweeps on through, if it does pick up enough energy and pulls a little more of that wind from off of the coast, it could keep things maybe just slightly cooler. And I think this is a good reason why we are noticing some of the models picking up on temperatures maybe being slightly cooler than what they were thinking over the weekend, but either way, it's still expected to be a pretty hot forecast here as we make our way into the next couple of days. So that will continue to find its way off towards the east there. You can see some light shower activity could fire up across more of the higher terrain, but none of that at all for us here in the lowlands. That will continue to work its way off towards the east, and then here we go into Wednesday, another one of those pretty weak disturbances. That helps to flare up a few showers and storms for the higher terrain across the Cascades and on off towards the eastern side of the state. And at that point, too, especially into the evening, you're seeing right there that onshore flow beginning to come back. And that's with those wind bars that you see right there coming back more so this way, going through parts of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and eventually they find their way down here and start to cool us down. So what will happen is you'll see that cool air wrap around the Olympic Mountains, and so for areas that are farther north and also farther south will cool down the earliest as you get closer to Olympia. Tacoma, Seattle, areas around the Kitsap Peninsula, we usually have to wait for that air mass to come around and then settle in for us and to cool us off a lot more as we head on into the latter part of the day on Wednesday, and probably more so Wednesday night. That's why we are still expecting a pretty hot day around a lot of those spots. And then we'll see more of the cool down throughout the night heading into Wednesday, and definitely more so into the day on Thursday, where you can see this onshore air is going to be coming back, and that's going to be really helping to bring some of the cloud coverage and, yes, more of the cool down that we'll see heading on into that stretch of time. Now, let's talk about some of the temperatures. Again, next 5 days, we're going to see those highs try to climb a little bit. Now, this is going to be for what we're expecting here through the next 7 day stretch, the next week or so. Average highs around 71, 72 degrees. So you see we hit that again as we head on into the day on Thursday, after seeing highs mainly in the mid to upper 80s more so into the day on Tuesday. Wednesday starting to come down a little bit, but it's those temperatures that are in the mid 60s that are going to bring in the big difference for us here as we go later on into the week. So that's something that we'll definitely have to contend with at that point. And again, I told you we'll talk about it later in the show, but we got some rain coming along with that, which is going to be actually a decent amount that could be ahead for us, especially west of the Cascades and during this time of the year, whenever we can talk rain and get that, especially in a good amount or some good doses of rain beginning to come on through. Well, that's going to be great when it comes to fire season here for the area. So that'll help to dampen things up again and give us a bit more moisture into our vegetation and across our soil here into western Washington. And hopefully we'll get enough of that across the eastern side of the state as well. So one last look here. Next 7-day stretch, we're going to see things really heat up as we head on into more of the day on Tuesday and Wednesday, seeing those highs in the mid to upper 80s and some 90s could be around to go along with that as well. And then by Thursday and later on into the week, check that out. We have a cool down and more of a cool down with the rain that's expected to be in place for us heading into Friday and Saturday. So late week, definitely going to be a big change from what we have been dealing with here for the past few days and what we dealt with a lot of earlier into last week. And we'll get into more of the details of that, show you just how much rain is going to be ahead for us here as we head on into that stretch of time a little bit later on in the show. So we'll have you keep it right here, and we'll be back right after this.